Welcome to St. Pete Decides 2013 Mayoral Candidate Forum, live from City Council Chambers on St. Pete TV. Brought to you by the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg.
And welcome to St. Pete Decides 2013. I am your moderator, Frank Biafora, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. Tonight, we have a chance to hear from the top two candidates for mayor, right here in the chambers of City Hall, the exact location where each hopes to serve. From left to right, we have our incumbent, Mayor Bill Foster. To his left is his challenger, Rick Kriseman. This forum is being brought to you live tonight on St. Pete TV, and the format of our event is as follows. First, each candidate will be allowed 90 seconds to offer an opening statement. Next, we will move to a question and answer round designed to address a broad range of topics and issues that are important to voters. And again, each of the candidates will have 90 seconds to respond. As part of the question and answer, each candidate will have an option of a 30-second rebuttal to clarify or to build upon remarks made by the other candidate. And finally, each candidate will be given a 90-second wrap-up for a closing statement. Questions will be posed in rotating order, providing each candidate multiple opportunities to answer first. The questions tonight were solicited from students and employees from the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg, and also from audience members in attendance here this evening. So with this, let's get right to the opening statements, beginning with Bill Foster. You have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you, Dean, and to the students of USF St. Petersburg, welcome to City Hall, and I want to thank you all for your involvement in this election process. My name is Bill Foster. I've been your mayor for the past 4 years. And 4 years ago, I sat right here and I promised to help navigate this city through the worst economic recession that we've ever seen in our lifetimes, and to create environments that were conducive to private investment. And I'm happy to say that that plan has worked. Through the worst recession that we've ever had, we have created these environments. We're seeing $500 million almost in economic growth today. We created an environment that was enticing and welcoming to new residents, that presented quality of life for existing residents, and that was welcoming to new businesses seeking to relocate here. Downtown vitality is up, property taxes are up, property values are up, home sales are up, sale prices are up. The number of new residents is actually up. The value of construction projects are way up. The number of new dwelling units is up, vacancy rates are down, unemployment is down, crime is down, and our homeless counts are down. So I ask that people judge me on our record, on our records, and judge me on my record, and really listen to what each of us has to say tonight about our vision for the future of the city of St. Petersburg. I want to thank you all for once again being here, and just recognize that it's Mr. Kriseman's task tonight to prove or to demonstrate that we're just status quo, and that we can be better. I agree, we can be better in spite of everything that we've done, but we're not status quo. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Kriseman.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you to the students at USF St. Pete. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Rick Kriseman, and I am running for mayor of the city of St. Petersburg. And I'm running for mayor because I love the city of St. Petersburg. But what excites me and what I love even more is the potential that we can become. And what concerns me is that if we don't make a change, that we'll continue to be dealing 4 years from now with the same problems that we've been dealing with for the past 4 years. Big problems like the raise and the pier and all the other issues that make cities great. And that's why I put forth a plan for a better St. Petersburg, and it really focuses in on 4 issues. Number one is the delivery and the quality of services that we deliver to our residents. And one of the ways I'm going to address that is through a program called St. Petersburg Stat. St. Pete Stat takes information that we receive from our citizens, and it takes that data and tracks that data in ways we haven't been doing it. It does it on a more frequent basis, on a monthly basis, and what you get from doing that is you get better response to our citizens' needs, and you get greater efficiencies, and we have opportunities to save hundreds of millions of dollars through this program. The second area I want to focus in on is jobs. In the last 4 years, we have not seen a creation of jobs. In fact, in the last 4 years, the number of small businesses in the city are down and the number of employees are down. We need to change that. Third area is on public education. Our schools in the city of St. Petersburg have been described as some of the worst in the county. That cannot remain the same. And the fourth area is neighborhoods. We have to have strong, vibrant neighborhoods if we're going to be an attractive place to live. I look forward to the questions.
Thank you. We'll get right to the questions now. We'll start with Bill Foster. The title is Setting the Record Straight. I'd like to begin this forum by giving each of you an opportunity to clear the air, so to speak. Has something been said or written about you during this campaign that is just plain wrong or a gross misrepresentation, and that you might wish to set the record straight here tonight?
Wow, I have to think about that for a minute. There have been a number of times when I have been misconstrued, and well, that's the first really gotcha question, because I haven't really thought of to have an opportunity. There have been things said about the fire readiness fee, for one. And there's a flyer going out that talks about my pushing the fire readiness fee, which in fact I did. I adopted it and owned it at the end, but it was really something that the city council asked us to explore, and even voted to support the hiring of an attorney for the certification of a fire readiness fee. So we provided all of the information and data that was necessary for its passage. It was a concept really started by John Wolfe, and we had really put that in the hopper for the past couple of years as we went through the recession looking for really new revenue sources. But at the end of the day, I did have to own that, because I thought there was some equity involved. Even though it was somewhat perceived as regressive, I thought there was some equity involved in people paying $1 a month. If that's what it turned out to be, $1 a month for city services as a revenue substitute, rather than increasing the ad valorem with an increased millage rate. But it was not something that was originally pushed by me and my administration. It was a suggestion, along with many others, as a new revenue source. Council decided to go with it and then decided against it.
Thank you. Mr. Kriseman.
If I was going to comment about anything I think that's been inaccurate, is Mr. Foster has said on multiple occasions that in my 6 years of service in the legislature, I didn't accomplish anything. And I do take umbrage with that statement. I'm proud of the fact that because of legislation I proposed, people who are convicted of DUI are now held accountable for their actions. I'm proud of the fact that our streets are safer for our kids as they go to try and cross crosswalks, or if they're walking or riding a bike. I'm proud of the fact that service learning is now a part of Florida law and is recognized under Florida law, and kids who perform service learning get credit for it today toward their bright futures, where in the past they didn't. And I'm also proud of some of the other legislation that I either was the prime sponsor or co-sponsored that impacted economic development, like the enterprise zone business property use tax exemption that I filed, or the bill that I filed that allowed the Get Downtown for the Breakfast Optimist to continue. That might not have been able to continue had that legislation not gone through. Fighting for contamination notification to prevent oil drilling off of our shores. Treating people who have Chinese drywall, getting their property reassessed so that they're not penalized even though their property is now worthless. There's a lot of legislation that I was involved in, and that's the one thing that I think has been said that's just not accurate.
Is now the time for the rebuttals, or?
Certainly is.
Well, my comment regarding Mr. Kriseman's performance in Tallahassee, and he did spend there 6 years there, and the past 3 years since I've been mayor, he didn't file a single piece of legislation that made it out of committee. To my knowledge, he didn't file a single piece of legislation that created a job. And he talks about jobs and the importance of job creation. He talks about listening, learning, and leading, and yet he didn't find that was important to the people of St. Petersburg and the people of the district that he represents, because he put the interest of the party over the needs of our citizens. So that's where I'm coming from with that.
And do I?
Sure do.
Also, very good, thank you. And Mr. Foster talked about the fire fee. When that fire fee was first proposed, and his administration was strongly encouraging its passage, I opposed it, and I opposed it because I thought it was a tax on a service that we were already paying taxes on. And secondly, there was talk about liening property. If you couldn't afford to pay it, the city would place a lien on your property. Well, normally you see liens placed on property for people who are code violators or have gone in front of committees and have been adjudged to have done something wrong, not because they couldn't afford to pay a tax on something they were already paying for.
Thank you. Moving on, this one goes to Mr. Kriseman. The title here is Branding St. Pete. Branding can be quite powerful. Imagine for a moment that the city had a funding for a 30-second TV spot during the next Super Bowl, designed specifically to establish a brand for your vision of St. Petersburg. What would it say? And before you answer, just know that this could be an open-ended question. You could start now, and you can even make adjustments all the way through to your closing comments.
Well, and it's something we have not done very well here in St. Petersburg. We are a treasure that is not known, and we need to become known. And what we really need to be talking about is the arts and culture. We have magnificent galleries, we have magnificent museums here, great performing arts. So I would be highlighting the culture and also our waterfront. No one in the state of Florida has a waterfront like the city of St. Petersburg has. But we need to be doing more than just a 30-second commercial. We need to also be highlighting all of the other neighborhoods, not just the downtown, but what we have that's special in all of our other neighborhoods, and highlighting them too. Because when visitors come to here, I want them to know that in the Tyrone area, there is a retail shopping district, and that's what the Tyrone area is known for. I want them to know that if they come to St. Petersburg, they can go to the Carter G. Woodson African American Museum in the Midtown area. We need to let them know what other restaurants and shops we have and galleries we have in all the other areas of the city. And we haven't done a very good job of that. But I think for that 30-second spot, I'm going to talk about the arts, I'm going to talk about culture, and I'm going to talk about the vibrancy of our waterfront.
No attempt of a tagline this evening.
No attempt at a tagline this evening.
Okay.
I'll give you a tagline, and it's, we're not your grandmother's St. Pete anymore. The city of St. Petersburg has evolved into a very vibrant community. I am on the other side of the median age, which in years past I certainly was not. So our median age is younger. There's a greater vibe. There's a vibe in neighborhoods. There's a vibe along the waterfront. We have these outdoor cafes. We are a city of arts, from the Dali to the Chihuly Collection, Museum of Fine Arts, and everything in between. We have this beautiful waterfront park system, which will be enhanced with the waterfront park master plan. So, when I think about our young people, quality spaces, quality events, these are the things that I think need to be marketed. But we're not your grandmother's St. Pete anymore. It is younger, it's more vibrant. There's a lot more to do, a lot more to see. I grew up here, born and raised. Our entertainment was 28th Street Drive-In. That doesn't even exist anymore. So there's a lot of things happening, but it's not only downtown, it is out west with the Free Fall Theater. It's in the, along the Deuces, where Deuces Live is coming back. It's in the Warehouse Arts District. It's Central Arts. It's Grand Central. It's everywhere. These are the surprising venues that I think we need to market to the outside. And also, as we market for job creation and things like that, we need to make sure that we market USF St. Pete, Eckerd College, St. Pete College. Market these institutions of higher learning, so we make sure that we're on the map when it comes to kids looking for college.
Thank you.
And if I may, and it is a bit frustrating, and I think the ULI study acknowledged that our marketing has been lackluster. And that's not a slam on the marketing department. It's just that there hasn't been an emphasis by this administration on marketing the city. The budget is barely existent. Mr. Foster himself has talked about how he's not, I think the article talked about, he wasn't one of those guys who's out front. But that's really what the job of the mayor is. You are the cheerleader for the community. You are the one who is out there touting everything that exists in your community, and that needs to happen.
And just a real quick snapshot in time, in 2007, our ad valorem revenues were about $104 million. In 2012, they dropped to below 70. We had a $35 million impact when it comes to ad valorem revenues. If you take a cumulative basis and adjust that by the consumer price index, it's it's over $100 million of economic impact. I was about keeping our city workers employed and focusing on essential need services. So when it came to needs versus want, yeah, we made some reductions in marketing. The economy has turned. We're going to change that.
Sticking with you, Mr. Mayor, the topic is disconnected pearls. Over a week ago, a team from the National Urban Land Institute presented preliminary findings and recommendations on the future of St. Petersburg's waterfront. You can find this on your city's website. Part of that report focused on the tremendous potential of the areas adjacent to the port, running from Allang Field around the Dali and Albert Whitted Airport, inclusive of USF College of Marine Science and USF St. Petersburg, and several important scientific and research enterprises, not to mention very large medical complexes, including Johns Hopkins All Children's, including Bayfront Medical. In your vision of the future, what role does this geographic area play? And what steps might you explore to help, as one of the ULI team members noted, to, quote, thread the many disconnected pearls into a beautiful necklace? Yeah,
and the Urban Land Institute did an incredible presentation, and it was a very critical view because, I mean, we had always seen our park system as one way, and I equated it to looking in the mirror and seeing myself as I looked in high school, knowing that I didn't. But when the park is always there, you never really look at the warts. And having this team from the outside really expose the areas where we can emphasize and improve. This area that they call the Innovation District, and it can be called anything you want, but it ties in the bay from Baybor area all the way out to ML King, and from Fifth Avenue South to Roser Park. And it's really that connectability of the university, of SRI, of the College of Marine Science with the University of South Florida. It ties in Johns Hopkins, University of Florida Shands, and potentially other medical entities that will come into this corridor. So I envision this as being a large, high-paying job creator and job corridor for the city of St. Petersburg well into the future. And it does need to connect, as you go around the Dali Museum, it does need to connect to the Allang Stadium. Allang may not be there forever. And so as you extend Beach Drive south, you can have room for another linear park, potentially a museum, potentially a soccer stadium for the North American Soccer League Tampa Bay Rowdies. All of these can be placed beautifully in there, but I think the connectability is key. Transportation, parking, bicycling, all of that will be a part of the master plan and will be implemented.
Thank you. Rick Kriseman.
Yeah, and that area will play a huge role in the future of the city, and specifically from an economic development standpoint. USF St. Pete, Eckerd College, and the marine sciences programs that we currently have and that we will expand to increase and grow right directly on the waterfront, and then of course with All Children's and Johns Hopkins. We have to do everything we can to enlarge their footprint in that area, and also Shands. That's another partner that we've got here that we need to be taking much greater advantage of. So I too foresee a great opportunity in those areas, and just a little bit outside that area. I think I'm hoping to see in the Dome Industrial some clean, green energy. But one of the specifics I've talked about also in my plan for a better St. Petersburg has to do with the port, which I think has been highly underutilized and neglected. We have a huge opportunity to become the research hub for the entire Gulf of Mexico. I would love to see that port be utilized to have all of those ships when they come in to restock, to refuel, to offload their research, be right there in our port area and staying in our community. And I think that's a real opportunity. And also we have the opportunity to connect up through transportation with, whether it's our port or down by the pier area, with downtown Tampa with the water taxi service. So we do need to do a better job. All the areas need to be connected, and there needs to be a flow to the park system as we go from one end to the other.
Thank you.
And I'm glad Mr. Kriseman mentioned the port, because we went after a NOAA vessel and offered free portage or free wharf space. And we put in a very serious bid for that. We didn't get it, but that's not for lack of trying, and it's not to say we won't get another opportunity for a major vessel. But we're having conversations now with the Tampa Port Authority, Manatee's at the table, St. Pete and Tampa, and I see a commonality of governance under the Port of Tampa, not only for the port that we have here, but also the possibility of a cruise port terminal on the Pinellas side outside of the Skyway Bridge. Those conversations are happening now.
Well, let's stick with that right now. Going to Rick Kriseman, and the topic here is 34th Street South. The city is in the midst of developing a 34th Street South corridor redevelopment plan with the goal of attracting new businesses, jobs, and consumers to the area. First, could you please define what have been the primary issues driving this conversation and how you might lead this effort going forward?
Well, the primary issues driving this issue is the fact that residents in South St. Pete and in Midtown are really limited on their choices and their opportunities. And that's something that in the last 4 years hasn't changed at all. In fact, there was a period of time where we lost an amenity when Sweet Bay left, and it'll be about a year before Walmart moves back in, so that at least in South St. Pete there is that grocery store. But you know, if you live in the south area of town, your choices are very limited. And there's no reason for that to be the case. We need to be bringing businesses to there. There's a lot of land on 34th Street that can be mixed use, that can have some height to it as opposed to within, more so inside into the neighborhoods. So there's a lot of opportunity for that redevelopment. And it's also important because when you think about leaving and entering the city of St. Petersburg, if you're coming from the south, typically 34th Street is your entranceway into the city of St. Petersburg, and it's really, the way it is right now is really not the kind of entranceway we want to see in St. Petersburg. We want to see vibrant businesses. We want to see public art. We want to see people that aren't having to drive 20 minutes from their homes in South St. Petersburg to try and get something to eat or to try and go clothes shopping. So this is a very important, along with Central Avenue, this is a very important corridor and it needs a lot of attention.
Thank you.
And just to set the record straight, it won't be a year before Walmart opens. Thank goodness we found a partner that will create a neighborhood grocery store and serve the needs of the community. Also, as far as a restaurant, by the end of the month or early November, we'll be celebrating the opening of Sylvia's of Harlem, which is a destination soul food restaurant right there along the Deuces in Midtown, but we're doing well. You know, I mentioned the port plan and the idea. Now, what's driving 34th Street South? As soon as we finished the redevelopment plan for Central Avenue, and as we go into the implementation phase of Central Avenue, the first place I wanted to go to was 34th Street South and really tie in that corridor from Fifth Avenue all the way down. But this port, if we can get a cruise port terminal on the Pinellas side outside of the Skyway Bridge, that'll be a game changer for 34th Street South. And I envision a lot of marine and hospitality industries, and hospitality meaning hotel, restaurant, retail, a lot of these mixed uses along that 34th Street corridor. Imagine the possibility of 10,000 visitors coming to this corridor every few days because they're getting on one of these major cruise ships that under construction now will not fit under the Skyway Bridge. The future of the cruise industry is on our side, on the outside of the Skyway Bridge. That's a game changer. They're going to be looking for places to accommodate before they leave on the cruise ship, and a lot of events and things to do when they get back. Tens of thousands of visitors every week along one corridor. That's my vision for 34th Street South.
And while certainly having a cruise port would be a game changer, the folks in South St. Petersburg have been waiting a long time for a game changer of their own, and that's to have restaurants and have retail and have shopping grocery stores that are within walking distance or within close driving distance to them. And it will be close to a year that the Sweet Bay will have been closed before the new Walmart does open, and that's a year that shouldn't have happened. There should have been a transition straight from when they closed into the Walmart.
Looks like you guys have read my playbook, because now the next topic is the Midtown development area. Walmart is now hiring upwards near 100 associates for its new neighborhood market in Midtown's Tangerine Plaza, the area recently vacated by Sweet Bay. What are your thoughts on this recent development, and what innovative next steps might we expect under your leadership to strengthen Midtown? That goes to Bill Foster.
My turn? Well, and again, I think the answer to that first question, where am I most misconstrued, was that somehow I knew that this company out of Belgium was going to close 30-some stores in the city of St. Petersburg, 3 in the city of in the state of Florida, 3 in the city of St. Pete, and that somehow I was availed the news that they were closing. I had no idea that this particular location was in financial trouble or closing, and that being said, they were paying full rent on a store that was dark because they decided that it was cheaper to pay rent than it was to incur the losses there. Now, that being said, Walmart is going in. We had some great partners working with Walmart and the lenders, and I was at the table with Walmart executives, with the lenders, with the landlord, with my city staff, making sure that Walmart felt comfortable going into the city of St. Petersburg and going into an existing location in Tangerine Plaza. It is absolutely a wonderful fit. Going forward, Deuce is live. And this is something that I helped start really 3.5 years ago, when we went from the old 22nd Street community redevelopment and gave it a brand. Deuce is live, and it is alive. St. Pete College is committed to 45,000 square foot, the construction of a campus right there. The Manhattan Casino renovation with Sylvia's of Harlem going in. As we look at using Project Rebuild monies or Neighborhood Stabilization Initiative monies, we're going to work on the housing around there. We're going to work on the redevelopment and job creation along the Deuces.
Thank you, Rick Kriseman.
I'll get 30
For a moment, I'll talk about Sweet Bay because, all of the Sweet Bay stores that closed were important to the neighborhoods that those stores were located. We had one that closed by my house, but none of them were more important to this city than the one that was in the Midtown area. And I wasn't in the room, but it's hard to imagine that Sweet Bay would come to meet with the mayor for any reason other than there's something going on there. But I do think it's important that we also thank Bill Edwards and Rick Baker because we have Walmart coming to that location through their efforts. Here's how we change. There's several things we do to change Midtown and change what's happened there and what's historically been going on there. We have to improve education. We improve education in the city of St. Petersburg. We change crime rates. We make kids more eligible and more ready for the job market. We have to create jobs in that area, and they have to be good-paying jobs. I'm glad Walmart's coming, but that's not the kind of good-paying job that we need for these kids. We need jobs that are in the high-tech industry that they can do even without a college degree, that they can get career training in, that pay well. And then we need to attract businesses to that community that will attract people from all over the city to go into Midtown and into South St. Petersburg. That's how you break down perceptions. That's how you change a corridor when people come into areas that they haven't previously been and realize, hey, these neighborhoods are no different than the neighborhood that I live in. We start changing perceptions, but we do that by bringing businesses that you would think necessarily might be in downtown or on 4th Street, and you bring them into South St. Pete and Midtown.
A lot of company presidents come to City Hall and meet the mayor, and they're not always talking about their financial wherewithal or their problems. This meeting that took place 18 months before the closure of Sweet Bay was to introduce me to Michael Vale. So Mr. Kriseman was not in the room, and he surmises a lot, but he surmises things that he has no idea about. There was a meeting that occurred, according to Sweet Bay, with the mayor and community leaders that I heard about, that may have talked about the finances of the Sweet Bay, but that meeting was with Mayor Baker and Goliath Davis and occurred before I was mayor.
Okay. This one goes to Rick Kriseman, and the topic is emergency first responders and transport services. In times of budget reductions, it is not at all surprising that the topic of conversation often moves towards finding efficiencies through partnerships. Some have argued that partnering with the county on emergency first responders may well be worth exploring. Can you help us understand the core issues at hand and your starting position? And is partnering with the county on EMS something that you plan to invest political capital?
Well, I think that you raise a point about partnerships and collaborations, and I think it's something that in these changing economic times you have to do as a government entity, and it's something that traditionally our city hasn't done very well, whether it's working with Pinellas County or with Tampa and Hillsborough County, or even some of our smaller municipalities that are adjacent to us, like Pinellas Park and Gulfport. So we need to do a better job there because there are opportunities for savings that we can realize. When it comes to EMS and emergency response, I do think that we need to continue to look at this issue. It is become more and more costly, but of course, my job as mayor is to make sure that my citizens continue to be protected, whether it's on the police side of it or on the fire rescue side. And that means we look at response times, and we look to make sure that we're not doing anything that puts our citizens in harm's way. But it is getting more costly. I think there are opportunities. There's several different plans that have been out there and have been floated, both that have come from the firefighters, in particular in Lellman, and that have come from the county side. And both sides have been reluctant to try and see if there's any common ground, and I think we need to work towards that if we're going to get a solution that still provides the same level of service, but at the same time is more cost-effective and efficient.
Thank you, Bill Foster.
And thank goodness that's exactly what we've been doing for the past couple of years. Originally, this whole thing started because IPS came out with a study that was going to recommend to the county cut the budget of our paramedics significantly. It was in the millions of dollars. We started fighting back because there's a court order, a long-standing court order that talks about level of service and who pays for what and how much in the city of St. Petersburg. I am not going to compromise the level of service and the public safety of our residents to compromise because the county has some different ideas. Now, the Fitch study, there was a Fitch study done, and they talked about Sanford Milliken, which is fire-based transport. They talked about the IPS model, and they talked about a kind of a choice plan or a community paramedic. There's a lot of recommendations under the Fitch study that I think can be explored, looking for efficiencies, and we're always going to look for efficiencies. But I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to protecting that 4.5-minute response time. We're going to keep that. Are there ways that we can start getting away from dual response, or maybe having some paramedics assigned depending upon hours of day and demand and things like that? There are some studies that I think we can still look at to find efficiencies. I think the EMS medical director, I think there's a lot of efficiencies that can be made in that department. But you know what? I'm not going to compromise that 4.5-minute response time, because it's when it's your heart attack, you're going to want the red truck there.
And just to make sure I was clear, and I want to make sure I'm very clear, as I said initially, I will not be compromising the safety of the citizens of this city either. But I do think we need to continue to explore opportunities to collaborate and for efficiencies.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Foster, this goes to you, and it's on population density. 5 apartment complexes are in some stage of development downtown that will yield several hundred new rental units and potentially close to 1,000 new residents. In your vision of the future of St. Petersburg, is this type of dense housing moving St. Petersburg in the right direction?
I think it is, and I've always been in favor of density in the appropriate location. I think the waterfront master plan is going to dictate a lot of the land development regulations that we have along the waterfront and the downtown corridor, but you're starting to see that expansion out. These new residential units where you're finding the density are kind of getting away from that downtown center core, which is a good thing. You're starting to see them on the south side. You're starting to see them off of 3rd and things like that. I think you'll continue to see that migration of density all the way to the edge, 16th Street and beyond. And I think you're going to eventually see the potential of the redevelopment of 85 acres of mixed use. It's called Tropicana Field now, but eventually that will come into play, and I think you'll see appropriate densities with a lot of mixed uses of entertainment, retail, commercial, art, green space. So I think you're going to see that density move out, but it's going to be for that urban dweller that likes the vibe. Transportation is going to be a key, supporting Green Light Pinellas to make sure that we have these transportation routes, I think will be key, because as we see that density come in, people are going to need a place to either park their car and ride, or get around without any car at all and still have access to all of the amenities and events and business corridors that St. Pete has to offer. So transportation will be a key in that. But I do think our density issues or our density increasing is the way to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. So we're growing in the right direction.
Thank you. Rick Kriseman, same question.
Yeah, I like what I see happening in the downtown area as far as the density goes. I think that it's important that you have a vibrant downtown, but it is also important that it isn't just the downtown, that it does spread down and continue to head west and push out to the south and to the north. When we're talking about this, though, one of the concerns I have deals with the affordability. What I am concerned about is to make sure that when we are building, whether it's condominiums or apartments in the downtown core, that we're not pricing out people who would otherwise want to live in the downtown and now don't have the availability to do that. I don't want to see our downtown become an area where if you don't have a certain financial level, you can't live there. So I think it's really important that we keep that in mind while we're moving forward with these projects and to try and make sure that we're attracting development that's affordable and not just for those who are nearing retirement and have made their fortune already in their business. Transportation is also a key part to that, from Greenlight Pinellas to making sure that our city remains walkable and is safe both for pedestrians and bicyclists. We want people, as we have more and more people coming into the downtown core, parking obviously becomes more of an issue. So having alternative public transportation, having safe transportation for bicycle and pedestrian becomes even more important.
Thank you.
And I do agree that we need to have workforce housing, and even in the downtown area, especially in the downtown area. That's why anytime we're going after grants and public funds, that we incorporate that into the vertical development. Great examples of that are 2 units or 2 vertical mid-rise buildings that are on 8th Street North and 4th Avenue. These are 2 that we partnered with the developers to make sure that we had affordable housing over 55 communities. We're going to continue to do that where appropriate.
Okay, this question goes to Mr. Kriseman. Topic is chronic homeless. 4 years ago, one of the leading conversations and concerns at election time focused on panhandling and the homeless. Through a concerted effort and coordinated effort, along with legislative changes, the concerns today are nowhere near what they were 4 years ago, but still, the homeless remain a persistence, especially in and around Williams Park. What more, if anything, will you do to address the current situation?
Well, and it is chronic homelessness, obviously, in a city like St. Petersburg, which is beautiful and is very attractive. It makes it more of a problem. And what we've seen is we had seen some actions that were put in place that did address initially some of the issues, and we did see a drop in homelessness. But what we ended up doing to a large degree is shifting those folks from St. Petersburg to other areas in the county, which is not a long-term solution. And it's a great short-term fix if you live in the city of St. Petersburg, but over the long term, it doesn't fix and address the problem, and those folks eventually are going to come back. The second problem that we've got is the city had retained someone to work on this issue, Mr. Marbut, and there was a lot of good work that was done, but that person was then discharged from their services. Now, a lot of other communities that also retained him to work with their community on addressing homelessness brought him back after a period of months to take a look and make sure that the processes that had been put in place were still working, to see if anything needed to be tweaked and fixed or if something new needed to be put in place. St. Petersburg hasn't done that, and I think because they haven't done that, we're now seeing the spike and the rise again in the homeless population here. We address it by creating jobs. We address it through education. We address it with bringing in funding so that we can do a better job with rehab and with mental health counseling.
Thank you. Bill Foster.
Well, contrary to popular belief, the Pinellas Safe Harbor really did start with me and under my leadership, and it started with a conversation I had with the Chief Judge of the Sixth Judicial Circuit. And out of that luncheon meeting was a coordinated effort with the public defender, the state attorney, yes, the sheriff, with Jim Coates and Bob Galtieri right there at the table, and social service agencies. And out of that group, Pinellas Safe Harbor, one of the largest wet shelters anywhere in the state, where we created over 500 bed spaces for the chronic homeless. So we've done a really good job taking care of the needs of chronic homeless. Now, the key word here is chronic. And sometimes you have to outreach 10, 15, 20 times. And you continue to make sure that they get the help, and you continue to tweak it. We had a meeting a couple months ago with the chief judge, and we worked out something with the public defender and the jailer to make sure that jail was the last option and that Pinellas Safe Harbor was the only option for our chronics who are arrested for open container and things like that. So Pinellas Safe Harbor has been a portal into self-sufficiencies. They get case management. They get VA benefits for those that qualify. They transition into Pinellas Hope. They transition into Boley and other agencies. They can go to P-TECH and St. Pete College. So all of these programs are in there. I think we've done a tremendous job. If we'd have had this thing here 4 years ago, and we did, you'd have been stepping over hundreds and hundreds of people coming into City Hall, and they're not there anymore, thank goodness.
Go ahead, 30 seconds.
Specifically addressing your question of one of the things I would do is I would bring back Mr. Marbut to take a look at what we are doing, find out what we need to tweak, what's not working, and what additionally we could be doing so that we can get back to where we were before as opposed to where we are now.
Okay. Thank you.
And something else, and I'm glad to use this chance to rebut, we're talking about Williams Park as well. And I met with a group, or I met with a professor from St. Pete College just last week. And I'm working with St. Pete College to better engage their students because they're right across the street on programming opportunities and lectures in the park and maybe to bring in food and coffee and things like that with security to make sure that we have constant daytime programming. And I'm really excited about this partnership that we can have with St. Pete College.
Thank you. We'll stay with you for a moment. And the topic is flood insurance. Flood insurance is on the minds of many homeowners today, not only among those who live next to the water, but also among others who are not quite sure if they will be impacted by recent changes due to the Biggert Waters Flood Insurance Reform Act. What can you tell us about the situation, and what is in the realm of the possible, if anything, that you might be able to do to help address the situation?
Well, Biggert Waters is a potential disaster. Biggert Waters is this legislation that came out of Washington, D.C., and right now is sitting on a poker table. And it's one chip in this big argument of affordable health care and the government shutdown and everything else. Congress has ignored the impacts of Biggert Waters, and they've even ignored their own law when it came to the impacts that would have financially on ratepayers of subsidized flood insurance. Now, we didn't really have a grasp on the impact until Pam DeBove came out with her study a few weeks ago. And I went to Tallahassee to address the governor and his cabinet, really ringing the alarm of the impacts of Biggert Waters and making sure that we had the full force of the governor's cabinet to talk to the Florida delegation. They are the only ones that can fix this, from the 2 senators to all of the representatives, to get them to hit pause. There is some compromise legislation that's being proposed. Senator Nelson, in fact, is proposing some compromise legislation. That needs to take place. But right now it is the law of the land. Rates are going up. It's going to freeze people in houses. It's going to decrease our property values along waterfront. I'm a resident of Shore Acres. It can have a disastrous impact. Congress created it. Only Congress can fix it. I do believe that they will. Eventually, the government will reopen, and hopefully we pray common sense will prevail somewhere, but we have to fight this.
Flood insurance, Mr. Kriseman.
Yeah, this is regarding the impact of this legislation. I think this is an area where Mr. Foster and I both agree. It's potentially catastrophic to our economy. Realtors are already feeling the impact now in home sales and their ability to sell homes. My concern is this. Even if we get Congress to hit the pause button, will there be amendments to the statute, to the bill? Will there be changes made that impact us and reduce our rates? I don't think we can rely on that. Based on what we've seen from Congress in the last several years, I don't think I'd rely on Congress for anything. So from that standpoint, what are we going to do as a community to move forward? How can we take action to protect our citizens? One of the things that we can be doing right now is starting the application process for a couple grants that are out there by FEMA. One is the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant, and another is a Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant. These are two grants that local governments are both eligible for and can apply for. Utilizing those resources, we can start investing in the community to start making changes that lower overall our flood rates. Another thing that we can be doing is potentially challenging mapping and the maps that have come out that put certain homes in flood zones that never used to be in those zones before. So I think there are things that we have to do on the local level, because I don't want us to be relying on Congress to do what they should be doing. We need to take action.
Thank you.
And this is all about flood elevations and how they're shot by the surveyor. And the idea that there are ways in shore acres where we can change the elevations of the 15,000 homes that exist in the city of St. Petersburg, there's very little we can do. Flood mitigation and a lot of this will go to how we release stormwater and things like that. But once water breaches the seawall, and we've got hundreds of miles of seawall, then you're going to have a breach. I did ask Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, to file a lawsuit against the federal government, not only to pause Biggert Waters, but to really fight for change. She's agreed to file an amicus curiae brief on the Mississippi lawsuit. Let's see where that goes.
Thank you. This question goes to Rick Kriseman. The topic is the future directions of the St. Petersburg Police Department. Police Chief Harmon is stepping down after 12 years of dedicated service as head of the city's police department. Help us understand your core positions on strategic new directions the department should consider moving forward within the context of this very important national search.
Well, and public safety is critical to the city. I mean, it's the #1 job of local government, and it's also critical when it comes to having safe neighborhoods and economic development. So what we do is going to be really important. What I've talked about as far as the selection of a new chief is doing a nationwide search that's done by an outside firm. I do not want it to be done in-house. We've done that before, and I don't think it worked out well. I'd like to see us use an outside firm to do a nationwide search. I also expect and would be disappointed if several of our current officers did not submit their names and applications for the position, because we have some talented people within. And really, it's a matter of hiring the best person who's gonna best represent the philosophies of moving the city forward, and that goes to the philosophy of community policing. And we can utilize a lot of the new technologies like predictive policing, but community policing is more of a philosophy that creates a relationship between the community and the business community and the police department. We've gotten away from that. I think we need to get back to that. And quite frankly, when it comes to crime, this is really an area where the rhetoric really kind of conflicts with reality. What we've been hearing is that crime is down. Well, if you look at this year, from this year, the January forward, the statistics put out by the chief show that's not the case. Crime, unfortunately, is back on an uptick. So we need to take some steps to make some changes.
Thank you. Bill Foster.
Well, this is, I look at every planned retirement as an opportunity. And Chief Harmon has served this community in an incredible way. But we still have an opportunity now to look forward. And I want to do a national search and get a chief that has great communication and management skills, that has a vast deal of experience with 21st century policing, predictive policing, the use of technology, with the sole focus of prevention of crime and the quick resolution of crimes that have been committed. We have 2 internal candidates that are assistant chiefs that I think are brilliant, and it would take somebody of a very high caliber to outdo the competition that I think these 2 will give us. But we will do a national search. This department really deserves to have the best available leadership out there. This is a force of 550 police officers. We're hiring 5 more police officers. They do an incredible amount of work. They're very dedicated, very passionate, but I want to make sure that with their new leadership that we can review a lot of things. Yeah, we can review red light camera policies, the use of surveillance cameras. We can review pursuit policies. We can review community policing, because it is all about civic engagement. So this new chief of police will be able to run this department and give us an opportunity to review a lot of the things that we're already doing.
Thank you.
You know, and obviously, the direction this new chief takes will be based on the mayor that hires this chief. And Mr. Foster just mentioned the pursuit policies, and the pursuit and chase policy that's in effect today is in effect because it was a policy that he wanted to see, despite the fact that the chief recommended against making that change. We need to create a perception through our law enforcement where people feel safe. They don't feel safe right now. Whether the crime statistics are up or down, the perception is equally important, so they need to feel safe, and we need to be tough and smart on crime.
And dealing with the pursuit policy, I find it interesting that comes up, because it's the same pursuit policy that the city of Tampa and just about every other jurisdiction has. And of the large police departments, our pursuit policy is still one of the most restrictive. So we pursue forcible felonies, and this past year we've had fewer pursuits than we did under previous policies. That much is a fact.
Thank you. We'll stick with you, Mr. Mayor, and topic here is follow the money. Mr. Kriseman noted in a recent debate that you can tell a lot about a city's priorities by analyzing its budget. What does our city's budget currently say about our city's priorities?
I think it says we place a very high priority on public safety and on parks and recreation and essential need services. You know, going through this recession, really having to cut tens of millions of dollars out of the budget, I wanted to make sure, A, that we didn't have mass layoffs. I wanted to keep people employed. But B, I did service level budgeting. It's a form of zero-based budgeting. Line by line by line, painstakingly putting every service that we did through a matrix of, is it essential? Could it be done by an outside agency? Could it be consolidated? And so we focused on essential need services, those services that really can't come from anywhere else. We focused on public safety, police, fire, paramedics. We focused on parks and recreation. We focused on all of these, streamlining construction and permitting. We focused on removing impediments to job creation and growth. So, we made sure that we use technology in accordance with, I think, very sound principles. So, yeah, we prioritized, but we focused on essential needs services, with public safety being at the top, and then making sure that we had an environment, look, smell, and feel that would encourage private growth and development, that private investor coming in, thinking that, you know what, St. Pete's where it's happening, we're not your grandmother's St. Pete anymore. And guess what? It has worked. There's cranes everywhere.
Rick Kriseman?
Yeah, and let me just address the cranes everywhere before I address that question. There are cranes everywhere in the downtown area. There aren't cranes in South St. Pete or in West St. Pete. And if you really look at the majority of those projects that are under construction, we ought to be thanking Mayor Baker and his administration, because all of those projects were in the pipeline, or the majority of them were in the pipeline before Mr. Foster took office.
Not true.
Budgets are a reflection of your priorities, of your values, of what you stand for. And it concerns me when I see a budget where a fire fee was proposed that would be a tax on top of a tax, and then if we're going to give those who can't afford to pay it, we're going to lien their property. There was the mayor's budget proposed reducing hours in libraries. It proposed closing pools, including Jenny Hall Pool. It proposed $200,000 in car allowances for administrators while cutting funding for Meals on Wheels. It gave paid time off to management level city employees who worked the Republican convention. Those aren't the priorities for my administration. My administration's priorities are focused on creating jobs and bettering our neighborhoods and our schools, making sure that kids can get jobs in both the summertime and year round. That's what the priority needs to be on, and creating that good quality of life.
Yeah, and I got your mail piece on that. It didn't have your name on it, but now I know where it came from. My administrators don't get a car allowance. They're reimbursed right now by the mileage that they use for personal use of vehicle. As far as the Meals on Wheels, we set aside a budget for social service allocation. That goes through a strenuous application and committee review process. I accepted the recommendation of the Social Action Funding Committee, and it was approved by the City Council. This mayor did not single-handedly cut any money to Meals on Wheels. That's not true, but now I know where it's coming from.
Well, and if I was going to respond to that at all, it's at another debate, Mr. Foster made the statement that he was the line of defense between taxpayer dollars and city council spending. So if you can't be the line of defense against spending, but also not be for spending. If Meals on Wheels was a priority, it should have been in the budget. If neighborhood partnership grants are a priority, they too should have been in the budget.
Thank you. We're going to stay with you, Rick Kriseman, and the topic is the boys of summer. Our home team Rays played their hearts out and made our city very proud, but unfortunately they ran out of gas against an imposing Red Sox team. We had a couple of sellout crowds there at the end, but it may not be enough to keep the Rays in St. Petersburg. In that the mayor is the chief negotiator with the Rays, what is your current position, and what are the next steps in negotiations?
Well, let me be very clear. My first goal as mayor of the city of St. Petersburg is to protect the interests of the taxpayers. We taxpayers have invested a lot of money in this team. We've invested our heart and soul in this team. And there's a lot of residents who gave up their homes and their businesses for the construction of the stadium on that site. So that's our first priority, to do everything we can to make sure we're protecting their interests. We do that, part of the way we do that is to try and see what we can do to keep this team here in St. Petersburg. They are a business just like any other business, and when we have a business in the city, we want them to stay here. We want them to be successful. So we work with them to see what can we do to help you be successful. Are there impediments that we placed in the way that we can take out of the way to help you be successful? So I want to have those discussions with the Rays. But it's important to recognize that, this is an issue that's been going on for 4 years now. And quite frankly, this relationship between the ownership and Mr. Foster appears to be broken. There seems to be a lack of trust in them, and we're still in the same place today that we were 4 years ago. We need to have honest dialogue. If we cannot keep them here, if they are dead set against staying in that location and they want to look at other locations, there is a cost that will be incurred by them to do that. If we're going to amend this agreement, this lease agreement that we have that's good through 2027, it isn't going to be unilaterally amended. There will be a cost. If they're not willing to pay that cost, there will be no amendment. If they're willing to pay it, then they can potentially look.
Thank you. Bill Foster.
This is something that we will be talking about 4 years from now, and 4 years after that, and 4 years after that. We're always going to have this discussion. Mr. Kriseman is of the very naive impression that this is somehow about the Rays' desire to stay, and this is either between St. Pete and Tampa or that they'll relocate here. Folks, the reality is Mr. Sternberg, who believes in this team, he believes in this region, is not, he is up against 29 other owners and a commissioner of Major League Baseball who do not see Tampa Bay as a viable baseball market. He's up against this owner, all of these owners who do revenue sharing. That's what this is all about. They're tired of revenue sharing. So I am all about preserving the interest of the taxpayers. That's what I've been doing for 4 years. That's what I'm going to do for the next 4 years. I'm all about preserving the integrity of the use agreement, which is the only reason they're still in Tampa Bay right now. It's the only reason they're here. It's the only reason they came. And it was the investment of hundreds of millions of dollars, your dollars, and you still owe on the stadium. So it's preserving our interest. You know what, though? When you talk about being at the table, I've been at the table. I know the offers and things that we've been talking about out there. But you know what? It's not about them wanting to stay in St. Petersburg. It's about 29 owners and a commissioner of baseball who don't see Tampa Bay as a viable baseball market. So you know what? It's all important now to preserve the interest under the use agreement. And if you start willy-nilly messing around with it, we're going to lose the team before 2027. And that's what will happen.
And my only response to that is I feel like at every debate that we are at, I hear a different position I think the last debate, Mr. Foster had indicated that he was willing to allow them to look elsewhere as long as there was a fee paid. I've been consistent on this issue and the positions that I've taken. The Rays will know where I'm coming from, and that's important when you're having negotiations. There needs to be a certain amount of certainty that you know that the position taken at one meeting is going to be the same position at the next meeting.
That wasn't one debate ago. That was about 25 debates ago, and that was before the owners' meeting in Cooperstown. So, you know what? If you're always afraid of the flip-flopping thing, and you're always afraid of evolving because the goals and objectives change, then you're going to be a part of the problem and not the part of the solution. That conversation evolved from being here through 2027 through 2028, 2038, 2048. It evolved into generations of Major League Baseball for the Tampa Bay area. But no, things went a little different after Cooperstown. It's a fact.
Okay, thank you. This is our final question of the evening. It goes to you, Mr. Mayor. The title is Strengthening the Creative Arts. It was interesting that the Urban Land Institute team noted in their preliminary report that the creative arts community has the potential of becoming a major economic driver, but the city doesn't have a coordinated marketing effort to attract them. Where does the creative arts stand in your priorities, and what steps would you advance and support to cultivate the full potential of the arts in our community?
Well, I think it's important, and the arts have thrived under my administration. 2010, 11, 12, we were the #1 arts and cultural destination anywhere in the country for cities under 500,000 people. I secured the last $5 million for the completion of the Dali Museum. So when it comes to the arts and the creation of the Art Alliance and the hiring of John Collins, we've done very well. It is a high priority. I think we need to do better as we coordinate Warehouse Arts District to Central Arts. I think we need to do a better job marketing the arts, and coming out of this recession, I think we're going to have an opportunity to do that. I spent this past Saturday doing the art walk, going gallery to gallery to gallery, all the way to the Florida Craftsman House. We have incredible artists. We have this emerging Warehouse Arts District with all of these artists coming in. We have artists in residence throughout the city. I think that we can continue to assist the arts as a business as they thrive. Part of the economic greenhouse across the street here, this partnership that we have with the St. Pete Chamber of Commerce, it has an art element because art is business. Art is economic development. Art is quality of life. Art is hospitality and tourism. Art is quality spaces. So, yeah, we're going to continue to make sure that arts thrive in the city of St. Petersburg, and it will involve St. Pete Arts, the Art Alliance, better coordination, more funding, and I'm going to continue to push the City Council to bring more funding into the arts using Wiki-Wachi dollars. It's a high priority.
Thank you. Rick Kriseman.
Yeah, and I think I answered that similar earlier in describing how important I think the creative arts community is to the city of St. Petersburg. And not only do we have no coordinated marketing, we really have had no marketing at all, whether it's coordinated or not coordinated. We have to do a better job of marketing not only our arts department, but the entire city, but in particular the arts, because it is what differentiates us from virtually every other community in the state of Florida. It is what separates us and makes us unique and special. But we need to do more than that. I'd like to see us having public art all throughout the city, not just in the downtown core, but it needs to be out in South St. Pete and in Midtown, and there needs to be public art in West St. Petersburg. And we are fortunate to have Free Fall Theater, but there needs to be more than just Free Fall Theater. There needs to be more in Midtown than the Carter G. Woodson. Williams Park has been completely unused. It has an opportunity for us to really feature some local musicians who are up and coming. We have a really burgeoning music scene here in St. Petersburg. They could be playing free concerts every Friday night in Williams Park and giving them an opportunity to showcase what their talents are. So there are a lot of opportunities. We need to do a better job with wayfinding signage so that visitors who come to our community know how to find our art amenities around the city. So there's a lot of things we can do. I'm really excited about the potential. And last point I'll make is ask City Council about art funding. I think they'll differ with the mayor on that issue.
Well, actually, arts marketing is one of the things we truly have marketed, and we see the economic impact that arts have. And as far as funding, I think that carving a little piece of that Wiki-Wachi money out of that and into an arts endowment, I think will go a long way. I think Elizabeth Brinklow and John Collins have done a great job selling arts in the city of St. Petersburg, and we're going to continue to do that. I've made the business visits trying to solicit funds for the arts. Through this recession, it hasn't been easy, but thank goodness contributions to the public arts will increase because under my administration, art projects that are city construction projects, there's a higher percentage of dollars going to public art. That happened on my watch.
Thank you. We now come to the closing statements, and we'll start with Rick Kriseman. And as I said at the very beginning, it's still open-ended. If you wanted to add your tagline for the city.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you again to USF St. Pete for putting this event on tonight. This is an exciting time in St. Petersburg, and we have tremendous opportunities, but we're not going to get there if we maintain the status quo. The mayor has frequently described the job of the mayor is getting out of the way. I don't believe that that's the job of the mayor. I believe the job of the mayor is to be a leader, to be decisive, to be innovative and proactive, to be someone who listens, learns, and then leads, and makes decisive decisions, but is willing to listen and involve and engage the community. Because if we're gonna make the changes that we really want to see here happen in St. Pete and really become the better St. Petersburg that we can be, we have to come together as a community. And that's what I'm going to be able to do, is to bring this community together so that all of us are involved, all of us are engaged, that we have the vibrant neighborhoods who are engaged in their city once again the way it used to be, so that kids are engaged in their community because they're giving back to their community and learning about what it is to give back to their community, so that people, whether they've been just graduated from school or they're previously been convicted of felonies, everyone in the city has an opportunity to get a job, and a good paying job. Those are the changes that we can make, but it's going to take leadership, and I look forward to the opportunity to start making those changes. I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Foster.
Well, and thank you all for being here. This really has been a treat. And there is absolutely nothing status quo about this city. And it's been a remarkable city. It's been a remarkable ride. Just a list of accolades during my watch. We were Municipality of the Year, Outstanding Green Government, Tree City USA Award, one of America's top art places in 2013, according to Art Place America. 7th most beautiful and underrated cities in the U.S. as Cape Here, we were 4th. Most romantic date destination, Red Book Magazine. Top 10 cities for cycling, best cities for dog parks, #1 arts destination in mid-sized cities, best community for young people, Playful City USA. These are all things that I think we should be very proud of, because 72% of the people in the city of St. Petersburg believes that the city is going in the right direction. And that's not just coincidence. I would say, Mr. Kriseman characterized me as saying that my job was, that I thought my job was to get out of the way. No, my job is to lead, to set a vision, to oversee a city of 250,000 people and 2,700 residents, and oversee hundreds of millions of dollars in a budget, but to lead with vision and purpose. And yes, at times, let the public sector do what they do best and then get out of the way. Don't be an impediment. All I ask people to do is get away from the rhetoric, the commercials, and all the garbage in the mail. Ask yourself 3 questions. Do you love the city of St. Petersburg? Coming out of this recession, do you believe you're better off than you were 4 years ago? And do you believe the city's going in the right direction? If the answer is yes, your vote will be obvious. Vote for Bill Foster on November the 5th. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you for both of our candidates. Can we show our appreciation to our candidates? In closing, I would like to thank our student and faculty volunteers from the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg, and for the staff of the City of St. Petersburg for helping to facilitate this candidate forum. And if you'd like to watch this primary forum again in its entirety, you have several options. 1, you can tune into St. Pete TV for replays. Go to the city's website at stpete.org or watch it on St. Pete TV's YouTube channel. Good night from City Hall. Thank you.